The Green Bay Packers added 2 top 100 picks to a receiver room that was already one of the deepest in the NFL. So how is this going to work?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. This episode brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, Mecole Hardman. There's a lot of names in this receiver room. I didn't even mention Christian Watson, who we assume is going to start the season on PUP. Okay, so now what? Even if we assume they're going to keep 6 receivers, at least one of the names I just mentioned is going to have to start looking for real estate outside the Ashwaubenon, Green Bay, Appleton area, because it's going to be over for them soon. And I would start with Mecole Hardman. And I don't relish saying, hey, look, this guy's going to be out of a job by any means. This is the cold reality of this business. Mecole Hardman was brought in as insurance, as speed insurance. If the Packers can't find the right speed, if, let's say, Matthew Golden had gone before Green Bay was going to pick, and let's say they were not comfortable taking Luther Burden, and let's say they end up having to take or wanting to take someone like Jaden Higgins, and Savion Williams goes before they're able to pick, maybe they do end up feeling like, hey, Mecole Hardman, returner, speed, a lot of value potentially in this offense. We talked about it when he was signed. At this point, though, I think it's over. You have Savion Williams, who returned or could return kicks. Matthew Golden returned kicks. Now, do you want a first-round receiver returning kicks? Maybe not. Jaden Reed is your punt returner. Maybe you don't want him to do that anymore. But do you want someone who is only going to play teams, who isn't going to be on the kick cover team, isn't going to be a gunner on punt team? Mecole Hardman's probably not the guy you want doing that. So is he just on the team as a punt returner, just on the team as the primary kick returner when you have these other guys who could do that? That doesn't seem like the smartest usage of your resources. And I think, honestly, the same goes for Bo Melton. You add Matthew Golden to this team, there's your vertical guy, in addition to Christian Watson. You add Savion Williams to this team, there's your backup jet sweep guy. Like when it's not Jaden Reed, generally speaking, especially from, on early downs when they want to feign like they're going to pass it, but maybe want to run it, Bo Melton is the guy that's out there. Well, now that can be Savion Williams, who they would much more likely, I would think, want to actually hand the ball to on that jet sweep. And that makes him even more dangerous than Bo Melton would have been, who was really just out there as eye candy. Now, Bo Melton, certainly a more polished receiver right now today than Williams would be. But that's not the whole point. I think Melton ends up being one of the odd men out in this set of circumstances. So, okay, you've got Matthew Golden, you've got Romeo Doubs, you've got Dontavian Wicks, you've got Jaden Reed, and you've got Savion Williams. That's 5 already. And you've got Christian Watson, who's going to start the year hurt. So he's not counting, but he's going to come back at some point. So is 5 enough? Do you want Malik Heath on this team? Blocker, special teams player, one of the few bigger body receivers on this team. As Savion Williams figures out how to play in the NFL, you may need someone who can actually play receiver. Now, I think we saw in the Philadelphia Eagles game that if he needs to be a featured part of the passing game, your passing game has probably got some issues. And that's true. But now when you add Golden here, you've got Dobbs, you've got Wicks, you've got Reed. You hope Tucker Kraft can take a step forward. I'm not even sure Malik Heath needs to make this squad if at some point Christian Watson is coming back. Now, there's practice squads. I mean, there's way to have your cake and eat it too here. But something Bob McGinn would often say is you never really have too many guys. Bo Melton did have some nice moments in 2023. He was always a player that I liked. I went back to, hey, they ran a special for him in the 49ers game, and they scored a touchdown on it. They like him, and they do. But that doesn't mean you can't upgrade. They like Malik Heath. They picked him over Grant Dubose. Grant Dubose went to Miami and immediately played. So this is a situation for the Packers where in the short run, I think this is rather obvious. Where this gets interesting is what happens beyond this. I think it is really just over for Romeo Doubs. He'll be around this year, and then that'll be that. Free agent in 2026. The question is really more about Christian Watson. And this was something that was discussed a little bit on social media yesterday, and that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up. But I posed the question, let's say Christian Watson comes back, final 6 games of the year, plays pretty well. What is the contract that would make sense for both sides? I'm not convinced there is one, because I feel like there will be a team out there that will talk themselves into the upside of Christian Watson. And I think for the Packers, they've made this investment in Golden and Williams. They'll be a year into that investment. They will be, I wouldn't say pot committed, but they will certainly be committed to those guys. And then you have decisions to make on Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed. Certainly different kinds of players, but Jaden Reed has proven he is a more consistent player than Christian Watson. Even if I think Christian Watson's upside, if he's healthy for 17 games, is potentially greater. But this is a little bit of the Jaire Alexander problem, which we'll talk about later, in that he's not out there enough. So for the Packers, what does a 1-year prove-it deal, let's say, look like? And I think for the Packers, that would make sense if there's a number that Watson's willing to accept that's less than what the, let's say, starting receiver APY looks like. Like if Christian Watson wants 1 year 15 on a prove-it deal, I'm just respectfully, that's a no deal for me. Now you want to come back 1 year 8, 1 year 10? Let's have a conversation. Even that though, given the investment, what you want Matthew Golden to be, what you want Savion Williams to be, what you want Jaden Reed to be, what you want Dontavian Wicks to be, and Reed and Wicks are under contract for an extra year. I just don't know if you can justify that money. And if I'm Christian Watson, I want to go somewhere where I can potentially earn opportunities. It's a little bit like when you work somewhere and you realize at a certain point you have to leave that place and maybe come back, but you have to leave that place to get the opportunities that you want. And it is not necessarily anything against that place. It may be the person in front of you is young and they're not going anywhere. Or maybe it's just that you realize the fit, the timeline, it doesn't work for you. Christian Watson is not going to get the touches in a 1-year prove-it deal in 2026 that would allow him to make the next deal. The reason you want to do a prove-it deal is because you want to do it somewhere where you can showcase your talents. Well, if you draft Matthew Golden as the Green Bay Packers to give you that vertical Z receiver, then what is Christian Watson's role? And if you have Savion Williams to take a lot of that gadget stuff, the jet sweep stuff, maybe some of the man beater stuff, that's just schemed up speed stuff. Well, that's some of the Christian Watson stuff. And what that allows you to do is take Jaden Reed and allow him to just play more receiver, which is also Christian Watson stuff. Add into the fact that this is the most egalitarian offense in the NFL already. It's just a bad place for a prove-it deal because you're not going to get enough opportunities to prove it. So I think the future of Christian Watson, and this was probably true before the draft, it is definitely true to me now, it's probably just over. So you hope he and Romeo Doubs can contribute to you going out and winning a Super Bowl, or at least competing for a Super Bowl right now. And then you wish them the best. I think that's the reality of the situation the Packers find themselves in and those players find themselves in right now. Can they do that? Yeah, Romeo Doubs can be a good player right now. Christian Watson, when he comes back, can be a useful player for this offense. They can do that. But beyond that, I think it's a big time we'll see. All right, Isaiah Simmons coming to the Packers linebacker room near you. That's next on Locked On Packers. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Plus, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Isaiah Simmons signing with the Green Bay Packers to play linebacker. Now, we touched on this briefly yesterday with Jamon Dumas Johnson, the linebacker, the undrafted free agent from Kentucky that they brought in. There are 4 linebackers who are, I would think, something close to locks to make this team. Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, who was a draft pick last year, even though we didn't get to really see him in 2024, and Isaiah McDuffie, who they brought back. They bring back Christian Welch. Now they've signed Isaiah Simmons. That's 6 linebackers. And then Dumas Johnson would make 7. Now I think Johnson is probably going to be a practice squad player. You look at the squad last year. On October 1st, they had 3 off-ball linebackers that really we thought were going to play right away. And And then it turned out Eric Wilson had to play real snaps for them. And Tyron Hopper didn't. So they kept 5 off-ball linebackers. Walker, Duffy, McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper. Well, 4 of those players are back. Eric Wilson was allowed to leave. You bring in Isaiah Simmons. So maybe you're just going to stick with 6, or maybe you just stick with those 5. Christian Welch is a borderline player again. You bring him back to see maybe, hey, can you stick on a practice squad? Maybe you could make the roster. I don't know that Isaiah Simmons is anything more than an Eric Wilson replacement. Another body in this room that you can play on special teams, and he can be a special teams contributor. I think anybody expecting Isaiah Simmons to come in, and he's still a young player, 25, 26. But anyone expecting him to come in and suddenly unlock the potential that we all saw at Clemson coming out of the draft that made him a top 10 pick. This is not Sam Darnold. This is not Geno Smith. The light turns on kind of late for linebackers. Sometimes it can happen year 3, year 4, but we're past that for Isaiah Simmons. He is the quintessential player for, yeah, we think we can play him all over, but it turns out you can't play him anywhere really because he doesn't have any elite skills. He has elite traits. Those elite traits never became or translated into elite skills, at least outside of a special teams context. He can be a very useful special teams player. Now, do I think if he had to come in and play, you could find ways to use him, that you could scheme him up? Absolutely. That athleticism is not gone. But I think expecting him to come in and like replace Quay Walker, for example, if he's hurt and play at a high level, I think you're kidding yourself on that one. I think even displacing Isaiah McDuffie on the depth chart would be a tall ask. This is someone who, for all the talent that he has, there's a reason that he has bounced around the NFL in his career. So I want to set reasonable expectations with this. I think that's important here. Because I know you know the name, but this is not someone who is going to come in and tilt the field for the Green Bay Packers. Now, it is interesting. It is potentially exciting in some ways. A dime linebacker maybe, but you have 2 starting linebackers who are already elite athletes. It's not like Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper need someone to come in and spell them on passing downs. They were drafted because they are elite athletes for the position. Now, they are not elite cover players yet. I think Edgerrin Cooper can get there. I think he's already showing excellent instincts. I think Quay Walker improved there, although I think the biggest place you saw improvement for him was fitting the run. Edgerrin Cooper walked into the league as someone who could fit the run. And at the end of last year was playing absolutely outrageous football against the run. I mean, that performance against the Vikings was crazy. Isaiah Simmons is just another guy who can do that. Now, Tyron Hopper may not be ready. So maybe it's just another year of development for him. Like I said, it takes time with linebackers, much like it takes time with tight ends. It takes time with corners, and a lot of times it takes time with quarterbacks. This might be a hint that, hey, maybe the Tyron Hopper thing is not working out. But beyond that, I don't know that it tells us very much. And I don't want to read into it too far because the top of this linebacker room is set. And so if that's the case, he's not really a Sam linebacker, though Isaiah McDuffie is not either. We didn't even mention Colin Oliver. He may end up being a defensive end. We'll see where the Packers actually wind up playing him. He's a draft pick, though. Could we see Tyron Hopper just straight up not make this team? Could we see Isaiah McDuffie straight up not make this team? Could we see Isaiah Simmons straight up not make this team? I don't think any of that is out of the realm of possibility here. They have a future star linebacker in Edgerrin Cooper. They have a player that they are committed to, if not in writing yet, in apparently words that are going to become writing, allegedly, from Brian Gutekunst with Quay Walker. They've already given Isaiah McDuffie the contract. They're bringing in Isaiah Simmons. That does not relay a lot of faith in someone like Tyron Hopper. And then you add in the draft pick with Dumas Johnson, with Colin Oliver. I think they're telling us what they think of some of their backup linebackers. Not great, Bob. And so those guys are going to get real opportunities, I think, to make this team. Someone who I don't think has a real opportunity to make this team, Jaire Alexander. But he's still hanging around. He's still doing the offseason work. Am I starting to change my mind about the possibility of Jaire Alexander making this team? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Like, for example, if you bet on the Pacers to win their series, even though you're going to get heavy minus odds, all you have to do is win that $5 bet. And then guess what? You get your bonus bets. Plus, FanDuel makes it easy. Whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. The NFL draft is over, but the roster moves and news never stop. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Matt LaFleur mentioned Jaire Alexander had been taking part in offseason work. It had been over Zoom. Now it's live in person. We got our first photos from the team from in-person work going on. It's interesting. It's a little weird that it just seems like business as usual for Jaire Alexander. Now, it does need to be pointed out here. The reporting that we have, and the latest reporting from Tom Silverstein says the Packers still are trying to trade Jaire Alexander. The plan is for them to try and trade him. But by all accounts, Jaire Alexander has not asked to be traded. And he certainly could have done that. Hey, you guys don't want me? Trade me. Let's do this. It could be the case that he wants to stay. And one of the reasons why he's being intransigent about it, or at least, from a strategic standpoint, he's saying, look, I'm not messing with the money. Either cut me or keep me or trade me. You got to figure that out. But it could be that one of the reasons why he's handling it that way and why his agent is handling it that way is because he'd like to be in Green Bay. I think there's more than a non-zero chance that that's the case. When a team signals, we are willing to move you, and not just willing, it is our desire to move you. Generally speaking, players go, bet, move me. And yet it doesn't seem like Jaire Alexander is doing that. So that makes this just like 5% weirder than it would otherwise be. And the fact that he's participating in off-season work, that makes it like 5% weirder than it would otherwise be. And while I have not by any means come off the idea that he's going to be traded, released, that he just will not be on the team in 2025, this is getting stranger, and it has been strange for months. Going back to last year. And so for the Packers, I mean, maybe if he goes through the offseason process, they just go, look, there was nothing out there for you. We went through the draft. No one called. No one offered a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. They could have. They didn't. No, they didn't for Jalen Ramsey, for George Pickens. No one except Sam Howell got traded during the draft. But that's still the case that like the Packers didn't get offered anything that good for Jaire Alexander. You go to Ja and you say, look, man, like, why don't we just take a little bit of money off what you're currently making and call it good, and you play for us this year and we figure it out in a year? Because if we cut you, the deal you get on the open market is not going to be better than the one you are currently playing on for sure. And if we just take a couple million off that current salary, that will still probably be better than what is out there for you. And there's less risk. You don't have to move your family. You don't have to go learn a new system, create chemistry with new teammates. Why don't you just stay, but at a lower price? Because one of the reasons why you move on is you can't trust him to be out there. But if he's making $2 million and he's under contract, it's a lot different than if he's making 13, 17, 18 on the salary cap. So then the question becomes, at what number is this palatable if you're the Packers? What is the cap figure that makes it worth it? And can you find a place where you can bring that cap in line with a number that still feels like it's ahead of what he would get on the open market? The difference between this scenario, and we mentioned this with Davante Adams a couple months ago, is the Jets had to move on from Davante Adams. They had to clear mega dollars with that deal. I mean, they cut like $30 million cap hit off the books. That's not what Ja is this year. And the Packers would save money by cutting him. But guess what would be better than cutting Jaire Alexander, keeping Jaire Alexander? And I think keeping him at a lower price is the best thing that the Packers could do. Getting really good value for him would be the second best thing that they could do. It seems like that is done. Now, would a team, if it's 2026 draft capital, be a little bit more willing to part with a pick that would make the Packers want to make this move? Sure, but the longer this goes, the more it makes me believe that the Packers are playing a negotiation game here. Hey, we'll signal we're willing to trade him. Remember, this happened last year with Brandon Ayuk. The 49ers were like, yeah, sure, you'll call us for a trade. And then right when those trades were like close to happening, it was like, nah, we're not going to do that. Remember that? That was weird. Teams sometimes do handle their business this way. Green Bay generally doesn't. But if you've got a corner who's going, you come to him and you said, take a pay cut. Remember the Packers once upon a time went to Brian Bulaga and said, hey, can you take a pay cut? He said no. Well, they didn't have a better option, so they just kept him on the team. Now, they did not go to the media and say, we're going to trade, we're willing to trade Brian Bulaga. But that was Ted Thompson. This is Brian Gutekunst. The longer this goes, the more I believe this is partially at least a negotiating tactic. That if you can get the money down, we'll just call it square. Fair is fair, right? No hard feelings. Like that might be where this is going. And the longer he stays on this team, the more that I believe that is at least part of the calculation here. And then if he can bring the money down, then either you keep him or he becomes easier to trade. And I think that's the thing here. We haven't heard anything about, hey, the Packers are willing to eat X number of dollars. If teams have called and said, hey, we need you to eat some of this money, we haven't really heard anything about that. What we've heard is Ja is not willing to change his contract. Interesting. Seems like that's probably coming from the Packers. But presumably, if the Packers are willing to eat some money on this, they would put that out there. Hey, we're willing to eat some money. Doesn't seem like that's happening here either. So putting these dots together, connecting them, it does seem more and more likely, even if it's still less than zero or less than 50-50 that he's on the team. It is seeming more and more likely that the Packers are trying to exert some sort of leverage here to get that money down, whether it is for a trade, which would make it easier to trade him, or for him to just stay on the roster. Not out of the question either. All right, back tomorrow. Much more as we get you set for rookie camp, OTAs, mini camps. That's all coming up here soon. It's going to be May before you know it. It's going to be spring, then it's going to be summer. A lot of fun to be had here on Locked On Packers. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm on the other ones too. You just go find me there. Follow the podcast wherever you find social medias. Over on TikTok, just past 10,000 on TikTok. Shout out to you guys. And wherever you find podcasts, go subscribe. Wherever you watch on YouTube, I guess that would be YouTube, huh? Go subscribe so you can stay Locked On Packers.